Item number 5 on the agenda is case number CL 2023-130602 and is regarding the property located at 4405 Merle Drive. This case is regarding a residential structure with unsafe and dangerous conditions that requires demolition. The exhibits can be found in the brown books in your Readers and Google Drive folder. Here are some facts about the case. The case was opened in March 2023 following a fire incident. The fire-damaged residential structure is less than 1,000 feet from Joslin Elementary School and creates an attractive nuisance in a neighborhood blight condition which requires demolition. To date, there is no record of a permit application for demolition in our data. In Google Drive folder, you will find the following. Exhibit 1, which contains the complaint and case history, a copy of the Travis Central Appraisal District record that verifies ownership, maps of the property, including one showing the distance to the nearby school, notice of violation, notices of hearing for tonight's meeting, a proof of mailing for each notice and the required postings, and Austin Fire Department fire incident reports. And Exhibit 2, which consists of photographs marked as 2A through 2G and the recommended order. Code Inspector Latasha Paterno is currently assigned to this case and is here tonight to present the photographs marked 2A through 2G and discuss the violations as they are depicted. Inspector Paterno, please begin your testimony.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Latasha Paterno, and I'm an inspector for the Development Services Department, Code Compliance. The property being brought before you today is a residential property located at 4405 Merle Drive. The owner of record has been identified and confirmed through the Travis Central Appraisal District as Subtle Frederick G. and Clear G. On 17 March 2023, I received a complaint for the aforementioned property from Austin 311 for a heavily damaged vacant home. On 17 March 2023, I performed an inspection where I observed and photographed a heavily damaged fire-burned structure with a partially collapsed roof. Windows, doors, interior, exterior structural members, plumbing, electrical, and mechanical were significantly affected. I documented my findings and attempted to contact the property owner's son, Jason Supp, using contact information known from a previous property abatement case. I texted Mr. Supp photos and notified him of my findings and that the property would be boarded through a city contractor for public safety. A notice of violation was mailed to the owner detailing the violations, timeline for compliance, and remedy. Per the United States Postal Service, the notice of violation was received on 14 April 2023. After not receiving a response to my text on 17 March 2023, on 19 April of 23, I called and spoke with the property owner's son, Jason Supp. We discussed the case to include the trolley cars in the backyard and the neighbor complaints received from Austin 311. Mr. Supp stated that he was in contact with the insurance company and explained he intended to have the property demolished and the trolley cars removed. I performed subsequent monthly follow-up inspections and observed that the violations have not been corrected and no permits have been obtained. I am escalating this case forward due to the owner not rectifying the violations. I will now present my photos and discuss the violations depicted. Exhibit 2A is the initial photo showing a contextual picture, the date of the that I was there for my initial inspection. As you can see in the photo, the roof is partially collapsed and several of the windows are burned out. Next photo. This is a side view of the property. You can see where there's electrical and internal structural damage to the property. Next photo. This is the opposing side of the property where you can also see roof damage, damage to the siding resulting from the fire. Next photo. This is just a contextual photo showing the trolley cars in the rear of the yard. Next photo. A more up-to-date photo showing that the property has been boarded and secured and remains in disrepair as a result of the fire. Next photo. Again, showing a side view that the property was boarded as much as possible and secured. Also showing the roof damage, damage to the siding also. Next photo. A more up-to-date photo. The front of the property was fenced by the city, so that's a notice indicating that we fenced it, but you could see that the the homeless had started to take over the property and had graffitied the front, but the property still remains in disrepair. Next photo. This concludes my testimony. I'm available to answer any questions. Thank you.
Because of the existing conditions shown in these photographs and those described in the findings of fact, the code official found that this structure is a public and an attractive nuisance with unsafe conditions. Staff asked the Commission to admit Exhibit 1, which includes staff's proposed findings of fact and conclusions of law and other relevant documents, and photographs marked as Exhibits 2A through 2G. Staff also requests that the Commission adopt the proposed findings of fact and conclusions of law and order the owner complete the following. 1. Within 45 days from the date the order is mailed, A. Obtain and finalize all necessary permits. B. Demolish all portions of the residential structure and any accessory structure and remove as debris, leaving the lot clean and raked. And C. Request inspections from City of Austin Development Services Department to verify compliance with 1A and 1B. And 2. On the 46th day, if compliance has not been achieved, A. Authorize the code official to proceed with demolition and to consider all portions of the structure and any accessory structure, including any items in and around the structure, as debris and dispose of as such. B. The property owner shall be on notice that the code official is authorized to assess all expenses incurred against the property unless exempted by the Texas Constitution. A lien for those expenses may be filed by the City of Austin and recorded with the Travis County Deed Records. Interest shall accrue at a rate of 10% per year from the date of the assessment until paid in full. And with that, the City concludes its presentation.
All right, thank you so much. I'll go ahead and admit Exhibit 1 and Exhibits 2A through 2G. Is there anybody here for this property that's with the owners, 4405 Merle Drive? Do we have
Mr. Subt is on.
Mr. Suttle? Mr. Suttle, okay.
Mr. Subt, if you could please press *6 to unmute yourself online. Mr. Subt, if you could please press *6 on your phone, and that will allow you to unmute yourself. Thank you.
Hello, is it unmuted?
Yes, can you speak a little louder or increase your volume a little?
Yes, absolutely. So I believe I saw that there was certain documentation shared with the Building and Standards Commission, but there should be quite a bit of additional documentation from the insurance company, from the contractor that's been retained to rebuild it. A bunch of information should be in front of the Building and Standards Commission that was submitted. Is that information not available?
Okay, just one minute. Did we get any owner's exhibits? Yes. Other than, yeah, we have some documents here, but what specifically would you like the commissioners to look at?
Well, just evidence that we're trying to move forward. We have a gentleman that specializes in remediating fire-damaged homes, and his name is David Spell. I know that he intended to be available. And let me see if he still is. I had him on another line. But yeah, he should be able to confirm as a point of contact, and also just moving forward with permitting. I think he had a letter. There was an engineering company that was retained to help with the engineering on it, and he just started the submittal process in order to get...
Jason, I'm here.
Jason,
I'm here. This is David.
Hello. Can you state your last name?
Spell, S-P-E-L-L.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. All right, go ahead. What would you like
So,
to...
yes, Jason
yeah.
is... Well, I'm just giving, I guess, testimony that, yes, we've moved forward. I have a signed agreement with Jason. I've been on the phone with the adjuster with State Farm several times. I made an initial application for permit a couple of weeks ago with the city, and I knew that the city was going to turn it down because I didn't have all my documents together. But since then, one of which was the fire report, we have that. I needed my engineering report. I was at that moment when we were submitting, I had already employed my engineer, Greenworks, to go out and to get the findings and to find out what needs to occur. They have since done that. The report back from them should be available today or tomorrow. At that point, they once I give them the go-ahead, they will prepare the reconstruction documents, which takes about 10 days. I think I said all that in my email to you guys, to the DSD cred BSC at austintexas.gov email address, so that everyone was aware that the engineering documents are in place. And once I have those, then I can make my filing. I can complete my filing with the city of Austin. So things are moving. Today, a dumpster was set. Early last week, a fence was set to secure the property from the homeless situation that's nearby. We've already called the 911 to extract homeless people that just tend to migrate there, which I get it, but we need them out of our way so that we can do some things. So we have cleaned out the interior of the house as much as we can right now. It was kind of unsafe because of the fire, but this is what we do. This is what my company does, and so things are progressing. You don't see it there except for a dumpster now sitting in front of the house and the fence being up, and we boarded up a few more things. But currently, I'm waiting for my engineer to get the initial report back to me.
Okay, so I think with the commissioners here, they'll probably like us to have more specific time frames, if you have that.
Well, I put it in my email. And I do not have a commitment from my engineer. I gave dates. The engineer was on site on 2/6, and I put in the email documents should be ready in about 2 weeks. So I have asked my contact, the engineer that I work with there, to push forward with it, but they can only work so fast. And so the hard work has pretty much been done from an engineering perspective. They've been to the site. They've taken measurements. They just have to put together what their cost estimate's going to be for the final set of documents. I pay the fee, and then we move forward. The funds have been released by State Farm to Jason. Jason's been fair with me so far as getting me money, so I don't see anything that's going to get held up. It looks like things will move forward just fine.
Okay.
So to give you specific dates, and I apologize, to give you specific dates, it's a little difficult because I'm at the mercy of an engineering professional firm. And so I just, in the past, they've been very efficient. They've done probably 10 jobs for me in the last 2 years. So typically, and I always work with the same engineer, so they are quick to respond. They really don't ever drag their feet, but I don't have specific dates.
Okay, well, I appreciate you attempting to do that. I know Mr. Spell's still on the phone, so in his email, the reason I asked you is he had said something about December 2024, which is a long time away. So
that's a completion. That's the engineering report. That's a completion date for the entire project, because what happens after I get the engineering documents, I'm going to submit them to the city. I'm going to get a permit. I'm going to start with the work, getting the repairs done. Then I call for my intermittent inspections that are required, from roughing, framing rough, to getting the roof put on, to getting my electrical rough-in inspection. All those things take time. And so that's why I had guessed at a completion date of December of this year.
Okay, thank you. And what specifically, Mr. Sutt, is it Sutt or Supt? Okay. What specifically would you like the commissioners to do tonight if you would have your ideal outcome?
Just to give us some breathing room. I mean, we're moving forward. Dealing with the insurance company was quite a bit of a lift, and I think I got the right guy for the job. I think, just to collaborate together and not the confrontational relationship between you guys. We just want to get the house put back together. We're as concerned about the safety in the area as anybody, and I think we're addressing it. I hope it's perceived that way.
Okay, and my last question to you, just to kind of help you along, is when you're doing your rebuild, are you going to do a demo first of the property?
No, it's not. In fact, I talked to somebody, maybe let's call it 2-3 months ago, about maybe being an advantageous thing for the city to put a demo on it. after counsel with several people, even an attorney and the insurance company, the result would actually be very damaging to my mom. The way the insurance works, if you demo that property, she will receive about half of what she would receive if we rebuild it. So just tragically, that piles on to already losses. Right before this house burned down, I had deployed over $60,000 in improvements to include a brand new roof, brand new siding, brand new windows. The whole property was about to be remodeled and put into nice condition to be put back on the market for rental, and that's when the fire took place. So it's been a pretty hefty financial burden, and unfortunately we had to pay the mortgage the whole time as well.
Okay.
There was no relief from them on that.
All
So,
right,
I mean, we've got plenty of pressure.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Your time has been up. I was trying to give you a little bit of leeway there, but I think we have enough information, and I'm sorry to hear about, the investment that you lost throughout the process. Now, we do have, before we go forward, we have a neighbor here, Mr. Landis. Okay, you can go ahead and sit over there by the microphone.
Neighbor, the bitchin'.
Okay, Mr. Landis, you do have 3 minutes to let us know what you'd like the commissioners to know tonight about this property.
Sure. Whatever the resolution is, I would just really appreciate that the city really stays on it, because this whole corner, I own the property directly next door, and I'm currently building a duplex there. And I have had multiple instances of the homeless people that are residing in this property breaking into my property and stealing things that make no sense for them to steal. Engineered trusses that are only going to work for that property that I'm building. But we've got to get city staff involved. I've had to call 311. I've had to get the police involved multiple times to go back over to that property and retrieve some of my stolen property. And multiple times I've not been able to recover those items. They've broken into, I've got a storage container on the property. They've broken into that multiple times. So it's a neighborhood nuisance. And it's also created a situation where, kind of like broken glass theory. So because this property is a mess, the property next door has also devolved and is now an illegal gaming hall. And if this property were in better condition, I think it were less likely for that to have happened. So just would really, whatever the resolution is, would like something to be faster rather than slower.
Okay, thank you so much. We appreciate you being here, and we'll certainly take all that into consideration.
Thank you.
We know it must be frustrating for you.
Yes, it is. Thank you.
All right, thank you. You can hang around here while we discuss, and then you'll hear the decision tonight. Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and admit the owner's exhibits as well. I had not admitted those, and I believe there was another. Mr. Landis, did you submit some documents as well?
No, we have documents from another party, but I'm not sure if they're here. Is Susan Shorn here?
Is Ms. Shorn here? No. Okay, no problem.
I don't think we can show their
We won't be able
exhibit.
to admit that one. But we'll move ahead. And the commissioners, do you have any questions for Inspector Paterno or for the owners? Commissioner Osteluga?
Chair, if I had a question for the fire marshal, would that be for now or later?
Yeah, it will be for now. He's online. Mr. Carr?
Yes, I'm here.
Fire Marshal Carr, thank you for your time. In the current state that the property exists in, how much worse are the chances of a significant fire breaking out, if at all worse, in the current state that it is versus a sort of up-to-code property?
Sure, that's a good question. So, given the current state of the structure, we've got a lot of fire protective barriers that are not present up. Obviously they've burned away. Sheetrock, gypsum board, things of that nature aren't there. You've got free run up through the attic. So, with that, fire can go unmitigated. You don't have any smoke detectors, so there's nothing to alert anybody other than the presence of fire. So, depending on when that happened, time of day, how severe the fire was, where in the structure that occurred. Public notification might take some time too. So, without those fire protective barriers, it can go pretty quickly unmitigated. So it's definitely a more severe a state and higher chances of fire worsening without up to standard structural members in place.
Thank you. And a follow-up question. Would you say that demolition is the simplest or fastest way of mitigating the fire damage, or is there something else incrementally that would actually have a meaningful effect to the fire risk for this property?
So the quickest way to mitigate it, I'm trying to understand that question.
Yes. So the question is there an incremental act that the property owner could do immediately to mitigate the fire risk? Or is this a situation where a demo would be really the only way of mitigating the fire risk for this property?
It's really hard for me to make that assessment without, really knowing what the interior conditions are like and really having an assessment of just how severe the structural damage is. And that probably be a better question left to a fire protection engineer or a structural engineer.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
And so I assume there's somebody here that could answer that question?
No, okay. All right, do we have any other commissioners with questions or? Commissioner Campbell?
So this is a question for staff, and I'm hoping that it'll bring a little bit of clarity to the property owners as well. If we order this demolition and they pursue compliance instead, how does that interact with our order? Like, if they reach compliance within the time frame or even need to go outside of that but have the permits, how would that interact with our order?
Thank you. Robert Moore, Development Services Division Manager. Good question. I was hoping you'd bring that up. Just because you give a demolition order doesn't mean this house has to be demolished. If the owners get going and get the permits and start work, it's essentially a construction site at that point, and so we'd be hands-off for a while unless the project was really dormant for a really long time and we didn't see any progress. But as soon as they got permits and they started work, we would just monitor it and make sure it finishes up. But making all the repairs would satisfy the order, even though it is a demolition order.
Okay, and just to follow up to the owners and the Mr. Spell, do you all understand that properly, what he just said?
Yes, if you can still hear me,
yeah.
This is David.
Yes, we understand it, but let's be even tempered, please.
Okay, great.
All right.
Anything else? Commissioner Campbell.
Not at this time.
Okay, Commissioner Selig?
I move to close the hearing and adopt the staff's proposed finding of fact and conclusions and recommended order.
Second.
Okay, we would like to close the public part of the hearing first. Does anybody object to that? No, thank you. We'll close that. And now we have a motion as well and a second on that motion too. Any comments, or can I move forward and start? Commissioner Benigno.
Yeah, I'm just curious if there's any value in extending the timeline. I know that there's not a high amount of risk with the timeline if their paperwork is in order and getting processed, but I imagine having a small amount of days and a demolition order might be a bit of risk that they would prefer mitigated.
Okay, that's that's a very reasonable question. I think in the past, what we've heard from staff is that they do have some items on the schedule, so it does take a while for them to even get to the orders in the first place. So the 45 days on paper is essentially not really 45 days. And if I'm wrong, please let me know, Mr. Moore.
Yeah, you could probably tack on for this one another 3 months, 2 to 3 months, depending. I mean, we could move right away because it is fire damaged, but it would still be 2 to 3 months before we would move in for demo. But again, as soon as they start, we wouldn't, be even working on that paperwork.
Okay, well,
Can I follow up with a question there?
Commissioner Benigno?
Does starting mean like permits applied for and being granted, or does that mean actual physical work starting? Because I do see a scenario where paperwork could get held up for 2 months or 3 months, and then all of a sudden we've got a house that's trying to be repaired that has a demo order on it. So I could, in theory, be in favor of changing it to a repair order or extending the timeline well past 45 days. I think I'm in favor of doing one of those two things, depending on what the rest of the commission thinks.
Okay, fair enough. I'll
Madam-
think Commissioner Stolstad, what do you think?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I gather if Commissioner Benigno would yield for a question, what time frame did you have in mind, Commissioner?
I think we've done, I can't remember off the top of my head if the maximum is 60 or 90. I don't know if we need to do that, but I think 60 seems reasonable, or just changing it to a repair order since they clearly are intending to repair and having a demo order hanging over it. I know that it's not just going to get demoed out from under them. So this isn't, I don't feel like it's totally unfair the way it's set up right now. I think they're clearly trying to handle it professionally, and some risk mitigation on our end seems fair. So that's how I see it.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner. If I may, Madam Chair, I'm going to put the question to Inspector Paterno and staff if 60 days would be a source of discomfort or heartburn in light of the condition of the property.
For me personally, no. I know that the neighborhood has really been up in arms about this property. So much so that Friday, I got a pretty heated email from one of the neighbors just in relation to the contractors being there. I had been there earlier in the day, and I knew that they were kind of cleaning the property out. Well, the neighbors were not trying to hear that, especially since they had the gate open. So again, for me, 60 days is not a problem, but I think the community, that it's a problem for them.
All right. Thank you, Inspector, and thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, so these are...
Madam Chair, if I may.
Oh, I'm hearing a man's... Oh, yes, go ahead.
Although that the 60 days would be fine, but we would ask that you keep the order as is for demolition. We have held this case for almost a year now and have worked with the community, and Inspector Paterno has worked with the son of the owner of this home for quite some time. And for it to be existing for a year and allowing persons experiencing homelessness to continue to live in it and to continue to utilize the train carts that are in the yard, to continue to have fires that are consistent, because that is not the only fire that has occurred. There are 4 other fires that have occurred just with people experiencing homelessness, just trying to stay warm. And we understand it, but there has to be a check and balances so that the person's quality of life in these communities can carry on.
That seems fair. Yes, thank you for that background information. That's helpful. So, Commissioner, I'm going to go first to Commissioner Campbell, and then Commissioner Ostalugo, and then Commissioner Benigno.
I was going to suggest that in light of the property owners seeming to have, their eye on the ball and actually being on track to resolve this, it seems as though what actual date we set doesn't necessarily change when this will get resolved. And it kind of seems like the most, reasonable expectation for this getting resolved is to let the property owners redevelop the property or fix the property unabated, just in light of the community's concerns and the fact that we have people here from the neighborhood, and we have letter from people in the neighborhood and our exhibits. I think that 45 days should be fine. I don't necessarily see a reason to extend it beyond that. It seems to me as though it doesn't necessarily change how fast this will get resolved. And, putting a smaller time frame, again, doesn't necessarily change anything, but it definitely encourages promptness.
I had the same thoughts, actually, about it will be an incentive for the owners to move quicker. Now, Commissioner Osteluga.
And I think I wanted to sort of piggyback off Commissioner Silsat's point. I think when we're talking about amendments, I think it's important to have reference points and precedents. And I sort of throw back in my mind to the demo order that we had for a historical property in downtown Austin, I believe. That was much more tightly controlled. There weren't really issues with homelessness in there. It was really properly guarded and well boarded up. And we had still had it be a demo order, but just for a much more longer time period. And I would say for this property, considering the fact that it has not really been successfully managed and boarded up, and considering the heightened fire risk, I think a sort of more disciplined mandate of 45 days, considering how close they are to permitting, is, I think, both aligned with our previous decision making and prudent considering the risk scenarios we have here.
Yes, excellent points. Commissioner Benigno?
Yeah, I think y'all have convinced me. My intent was certainly not to extend when the work would actually begin or the completion of the timeline. Clearly, this is an urgent scenario. I just was trying to, I guess, give them credit for seemingly having a contractor in place and permits underway. But I definitely, the intent was not to extend when work would begin or finish. But I think y'all's points of neighborhood concern, put pressure on them is valid, and I think they should be able to get shovels on the ground metaphorically within 45 days. So I'm in favor of that.
Thank you so much.
No wording.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. So I think what we all understand is that the owners wanted continued cooperation and I guess collaboration to some extent with the City of Austin Development Services Department. So I believe that there will be nobody moving forward if we can see progress. So everybody's on the same page, it sounds like. I don't think the order would hurt, but I'm going to go ahead and just make sure we do the voting. And I will start this time with Commissioner Benigno.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Shugart?
Aye.
Commissioner Stostad?
Aye.
I'm in favor. Commissioner Francis?
Aye.
Commissioner Selig?
Aye.
Commissioner Campbell?
Aye.
Commissioner Ostelugo?
Aye.
All right. Thank you. The order passes. So we'll go ahead and mail this out to you, Mr. Sutt. And we hope that everything goes well with your build out and that all the permitting goes smoothly as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll be good. We'll be at work.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Landis.
I'm sure you will.
All right. So we will probably do number 6 and then go back to number 3 at the very end on the agenda.